I'm going to be talking about the Purple Pound. First and foremost, we're a social enterprise, and we're a business with a mission. Our mission is to help businesses have the best relationship they can with disabled people as possible. And very often that starts with making them want to. as a lot of the time, the key motivation for a business to get involved is legal responsibility or responding to complaints. But what we want to do is make it a business incentive for them. They want to achieve out of using this. So the Purple Pound is a shortcut, reference to the spending power of disabled people. And I thought it'd be interesting to put it into context. The spending power of students is £19.7 billion a year. That's the spending power, that's the housing costs, and that's the financial impact they can have with their disposable income. The NUS card, we all know about the NUS card. I'm sure many of us in here have had an NUS card and used it in the past. Businesses have an incentive for working with students. They know that they're a loyal customer group, and they know that if they get that loyalty early on, they'll retain it over the years. Now, if we compare that 19.7 billion to the spending power of disabled people, you'll see it pales into absolute insignificance. The spending power of disabled people directly is £80 billion. And the £32 billion at the top is the influence that they have over other people's spending. Disabled people don't just go out on their own, they go out with other people as well. So the question really is not, there's an obvious spending potential here, so why are businesses not actually tapping into it? Not are they missing out, it's why are they missing out? And I think the reason is this. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of what disability is in the UK. Now, these are the stats that often come out in association with other reports around disabled people. And we do an exercise, we do it with school children right the way up to boardroom executives, where we ask what disables people, what actually makes a person go from not being a disabled person to being a disabled person. And these are very often the kind of things that come through. These are medical diagnoses that people have. But what we want to do is challenge that and reinforce a different kind of understanding of what disability is and what disables people. So these might be medical conditions, but there's a flip side to that coin, and that's what's called the social model of disability. So this is what we absolutely advocate with businesses. So in this example, which I'm minded I might update to Minecraft after the previous speaker, you'll see two wheelchair users that medically are completely indistinguishable from one another. Only one of them, in terms of the medical understanding of disability, is actually a disabled person. What we want to do is reframe organisations' understanding of disability to understand that actually it's not the wheelchair or the need for the use of a wheelchair which actually disables them. What we're saying is disability is about context. And if you can think about disability in context, we have the opportunity to actually overcome disability and enable people. So what you'll find is that the chap on the left isn't being disabled by the medical condition that they have, but by the flight of stairs that's stopping them from getting into the building. This person on the right isn't a disabled person because they're being enabled to get into the building by the structures around them. And this is where businesses are potentially losing out by not understanding that actually these things can be overcome quite simply. So for some, it might be a flight of stairs that causes the disability. For others, it might be something like inconsiderate parking. It might be ill thought through signage and accessibility. When we came to, one more, for people with visual impairments, websites can be a particular barrier. If you can't get onto a business's website to find out what time they open, you're hardly likely to go and visit them, are you? Now, when I was doing this presentation, I wondered about using some anecdotal evidence or some case studies, and I actually thought of a story of my own that happened a few years ago that I thought would really give both sides of the spectrum. We do a lot of work with with festivals and the live music industry. And my friend and I, my colleague, had a busman's holiday a few years ago. We were down at the Olympic Park on one day working on the Hard Rock Calling Festival, great festival. Thousands of pounds invested into the accessibility of the event, changing places, toilets, viewing platforms. They gave away free essential companion tickets, all in the understanding that it was, if you build it, they will come. That platform had disabled people on it, it had free companions, but they were spending money with the event. On the Sunday, we had to travel over to Glastonbury Festival. Again, same sort of thing, massive investment. But we decided we'd play it by ear. We'd drive down on the Saturday night, drive as long as we felt like driving, and then stop and stay over, have a few beers somewhere. So we found ourselves in a town we hadn't been to, came out the door, and there was a bar straight across the street, and we went to go in. I made my way in, and there was a hand on my chest, and the security guy again said, no disabled. And I thought, well, hold on, you're wrong person to do that to, and wrong weekend to do it. This bar actually had a policy of no disabled people. The guy said, health and safety, it's dark, you'll fall. There was a step like that to get into the front door. But this was a case in point. What did we do? We took our business next door, and the gin bar profited quite nicely out of it. There's an incentive, there's a carrot and a stick. What we're saying is if you do what we ask of businesses around predicting and anticipating disabled people's needs, you're actually meeting your legal obligations as well as increasing your potential turnover. Now, the ultimate actual price you can levy on the purple pound is £212 billion. If you think of any one of you in this room, weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, the wider a party size, the more likely you are to take into account the needs of Aunt Betty, who's going to need a wheelchair because there's longer distances involved. And it's organisations that can predict and put that message out there before you've thought about it that are the ones that benefit. Forewarned is forearmed. For a company to put the information out directly to a customer before they need it is key. Quad, fantastic building, we've worked with Quad for years. They list all of their information on a third-party website, which we happen to run, that specifically addresses what they can do to meet people's needs. Only 8% of the population of disabled people are wheelchair users. So how do you go about providing a good service to everybody else? Not all businesses have to be wheelchair accessible. The symbols that are here, we've developed because one of the biggest barriers for businesses and disabled people is communicating all of these issues. How do we have a common language of actually addressing and opening the conversation to meeting people's needs? This is something that we're rolling out across the UK, and I think that this is an excellent vehicle for having a midway point of communicating disabled person to organisation without having to go into big levels of personal detail. So, are businesses missing out on the purple pound? Yes, quite probably, but the important message here is understanding the social model of disability, that actually removing disability is a societal response is needed, and it's all of our responses. So it's a challenge for you guys when you leave here to look at the world through different eyes and try and spot those potential barriers for disabled people and do what you can to remove them. If you have social groups, tell people about them and tell them how you can support them. Okay, thank you.